Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most controversial and infamous FBI operations in U.S. history, Operation ABSCAM. This operation not only exposed widespread corruption among government officials, but also raised serious ethical questions about the FBI's methods. If you're interested in real-life crime stories and undercover investigations, stay with me until the end of this video. Part 1. Background of Operation ABSCAM. In the 1970s, the FBI was searching for ways to combat corruption in the U.S. government and Congress. At the time, allegations of bribery and abuse of power were on the rise at the highest levels. To address this, the FBI launched a covert operation using a fake company called Abdul Enterprises. This company was actually run by undercover FBI agents and was presented as an Arab investment firm. The plan was to expose politicians and officials willing to accept bribes in exchange for political favors. The FBI believed that systemic corruption was widespread and that traditional investigative methods were insufficient to root it out. The operation relied on sophisticated undercover tactics, hidden cameras, and wiretaps to gather evidence. This was part of a broader effort to reform political integrity and restore public trust in the government. Part 2. How the operation was carried out. The FBI enlisted a former con artist named Melvin Weinberg to assist with the operation. Weinberg, who had a history of fraud and deception, became an undercover operative and helped the FBI trap corrupt politicians and officials. With his deep understanding of scams and deceit, Weinberg played a crucial role in gaining the trust of the targets. Undercover FBI agents, posing as representatives of a wealthy Arab sheikh, offered bribes to government officials in exchange for special permits and investment deals in the U.S. Many politicians and federal officials, unaware that they were dealing with the FBI, accepted these bribes without hesitation. The exchanges often took place in luxurious hotels, private offices, and even in some government buildings. FBI agents recorded these interactions, providing undeniable evidence of corruption. The operation lasted for nearly 2 years, with agents infiltrating multiple levels of government. To build credibility, the undercover agents used high-end cars, private jets, and luxurious offices to mimic real wealthy investors. Millions of dollars in bribes were discussed, though not all payments were completed. At the same time, the FBI faced significant logistical challenges. They had to ensure their cover was never blown, and their tactics had to remain legally sound to hold up in court. Internal debates within the FBI and Department of Justice also took place regarding the risks of entrapment and the potential fallout if the operation was exposed prematurely. Part 3. The exposure of the operation and public reaction. By 1980, the operation had reached its peak, leading to the arrest of one U.S. senator, 6 congressmen, a mayor, and several other government officials on charges of corruption and bribery. The footage of these politicians accepting cash in exchange for favors became one of the most shocking moments in American political history. However, once the operation was made public, it sparked intense criticism of the FBI's tactics. Some argued that the FBI had crossed ethical lines by creating situations that encouraged corruption rather than merely exposing it. Critics, including some legal experts, contended that entrapment played a significant role in the case, as the operation essentially provided an opportunity for officials to engage in illegal activity rather than uncovering pre-existing corruption. The media coverage was extensive, with major news outlets airing hidden camera footage of bribes being accepted. This led to public outrage and debates over the legitimacy of law enforcement tactics. Some politicians called for stricter oversight of FBI operations to prevent future entrapment-style investigations. Supporters of the operation, however, insisted that ABSCAM was necessary to demonstrate the depth of corruption in American politics. They argued that the politicians who accepted bribes had a duty to reject such offers, regardless of the circumstances. Part 4. Trials and Consequences of the Operation. In the end, many of those involved in the scandal were convicted and sentenced to prison. The convicted officials included Senator Harrison A. Williams of New Jersey, sentenced to 3 years in prison; Congressman John Jenrette of South Carolina, sentenced to 2 years in prison; Congressman Raymond Lederer, the Defense Production Act, sentenced to 3 years in prison; Congressman Michael Myers, the Defense Production Act, sentenced to 3 years in prison; Congressman Frank Thompson, District of New Jersey, sentenced to 3 years in prison; Congressman John Murphy, Diocese of New York, sentenced to 3 years in prison; Congressman Richard Kelly, Republican, Florida, sentenced to 6 to 13 months in prison; Camden, New Jersey, Mayor Angelo Arricchetti, sentenced to 6 years in prison. Several other public officials and businessmen were also convicted. Sentences ranged from several months to several years in federal prison. As a result of the scandal, public trust in government institutions declined sharply, prompting a push for tighter regulations on political funding and lobbying practices. Despite the controversy, the operation led to significant changes in how law enforcement agencies approached corruption cases. However, the debate over whether ABSCAM was an example of necessary policing or government overreach continues to this day. One of the most significant long-term effects of ABSCAM was the increased use of undercover operations by the SBI. While ABSCAM proved the effectiveness of these methods, it also led to legal reforms, including stricter rules on entrapment and the use of undercover stings in federal investigations. The case set a precedent that influenced future law enforcement policies, shaping how agencies conducted covert operations in high-profile corruption cases. Part 5. The cultural impact of ABSCAM operation. ABSCAM remains a subject of fascination and has been depicted in books, documentaries, and movies. One of the most notable adaptations is the 2013 film American Hustle, directed by David O. Russell. Though loosely based on the operation, the film captures the drama, deception, and moral dilemmas surrounding ABSCAM. The scandal has also been referenced in numerous political discussions as an example of the fine line between law enforcement and entrapment. The case has become a benchmark for discussing ethical boundaries in undercover operations. Many law schools and criminal justice programs study ABSCAM as an example of both effective law enforcement and the dangers of overreach. The discussion continues in political circles regarding the balance between fighting corruption and protecting civil liberties. In the end, Operation ABSCAM highlights the complexities of law enforcement and the challenges of combating corruption at the highest levels of government. It demonstrated that corruption exists even in the most powerful positions, and sometimes requires unconventional methods to uncover. The operation also raised important questions about government transparency, ethical law enforcement, and the risks of entrapment. While the FBI's methods remain controversial, ABSCAM exposed a disturbing level of corruption that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. Today, it serves as a reminder of both the strengths and limitations of undercover investigations. What do you think about this operation? Do you believe the SBI crossed ethical boundaries? Was ABSCAM a necessary evil, or did it go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to support our channel. Thank you for watching. Until the next video, goodbye.